Have you ever wondered how Billboard gets the data for its charts? Well, they get it from a company called Luminate. Luminate has always been responsible for providing the data on vinyl record sales. Not just vinyl record sales, but streaming, digital media, and even radio airplay. It's a big deal. And according to a recent Forbes article, of course, we're interested in the vinyl record sales. That's the joy of vinyl. It brought in $1 billion, or the vinyl record industry brought in $1 billion over the last year. $1 billion. You heard me right. That's a big deal. It's great news for vinyl records. And Luminate has always been responsible for delivering that great news. And when news like that comes out, people pay attention, especially people with money. And it also helps bring about more sales. And more sales mean more buyers, it means more sellers, it means people are listening, so bring on that good news. But the problem is, Luminate announced a couple of months ago in October of 2023 that they are going to change how they report vinyl record sales. And like I said, it's a big deal, but that announcement, not so much. And it's a good thing to understand, how Luminate has historically reported on vinyl record sales. They don't count every vinyl record sold. That would be impossible. But what they do is collect data from major retailers like, Best Buy and Amazon and Walmart, the big box stores. It makes sense, right? The industry needs that data. You can walk into Walmart or Target and see records or vinyl records for sale. It's a lot easier to report the data in places like Walmart and Target, and especially places like Best Buy and Amazon. And that's not the entire story, of course. You also have indie stores, the little independent, local town used record stores. And here's where things get murky. Luminate does not collect data on all independent record stores. So the data it does get from those independents, it will use an algorithm to kind of calculate and estimate the vinyl record sales for all of them. So let's use an example. Say there's 100 independent record stores in a region, and only 5 of them report back to Luminate on those sales. Now let's say from those 5, those stores report that 40% of the units sold are for vinyl records. So Luminate will use that data to estimate the total for the 100 stores. So there's 95 that never reported in. There's a problem there that's starting to rear its ugly head if Luminate changes things the way it said that they are going to. You might be asking the question, well, why aren't they all reporting? Why is it just 5 of those 100 independents that are reporting and the other 95 are not, and relying on estimates to indicate their sales? Well, it's easy for companies like Amazon and Best Buy to report their sales. Not so much for the independents. Amazon has data feeds, and all those other big stores, online merchants, they have data feeds set up. There's technical knowledge to do that, to set those things up. A lot of that knowledge isn't available to independent record store owners. They have other things to worry about. They have to worry about keeping the lights on. And some of those immediate needs of running a small business trumps setting up data feeds to a data collection service like Luminate. It's not a priority. Other things are, like selling records and paying bills. So Luminate collects what it can get and estimates the rest. Fair enough. You have to use what you can get a hold of, especially with data. And there's been no arguments, up till now for the data that Luminate has been collecting. Now, if I were to tell you out of the 50,000 records that you shipped out yesterday, 75% of them sold. And the data supports that, even the estimated data, you'd be fine with that. If, on the other hand, I said, hey, you sold or shipped out 50,000 records and 25% of revenue came back, but the data doesn't support that because of the estimated, well, there might be a lot of questions and some problems. But there hasn't been. The money coming in has supported the data thus far. It may not when things change. So this past October, Luminate announced that it was going to change the way that it collects sales going into 2024. It's no longer going to, estimate the sales for those independent record stores who do not report. It's going to stop manipulating the data. According to Luminate, this will better represent the sales of vinyl records. They're just going to be using the data from those that report it. It sounds okay at face value, but there's a catch. Now, it would all be well and good if every record store reported in. That'd be awesome. But of course they don't. And that 5% that I made up earlier, that's really not too far from the truth. That 5%, that's what some of the industry players are saying is actually the case. The Vinyl Record Manufacturers Alliance and the Vinyl Alliance issued a joint statement criticizing Luminate's recent decision. Both organizations have major record labels and sellers as members of those organizations. Warner Music, Sony, and Universal are all part of the Vinyl Alliance. Jack White's Third Man Records is part of the VRMA. They are all weighing in against what Luminate wants to do. Even the organizers of Record Store Day have weighed in on this. Depending on the source, there are anywhere between 1,400 and 2,500 independent record stores out there. With only 5 to 7% of indie record stores, reporting sales, it does make sense to, estimate the rest. And the VRMA, the Vinyl Alliance, and, major labels, they've all accepted this up to this point. It's just the way it is. You can't force independent record store owners to report their sales. For all the reasons I've already mentioned, they're just not set up for it. As a personal example, my local record store, every time I go in and buy a record, they will manually write it down in a logbook. They'll write that sale down. And then obviously, at the end of the month or whenever they do it, I don't know when they actually do this, but they will take that logbook and their online record receipts from the credit card I use, and they'll make sure that everything balances out. It's all manual. Now, I have no idea if my local record store actually reports to Luminate, but I wouldn't be surprised if the answer is no. I can't imagine that they have time to put together a data feed to send to Luminate. Now, the funny thing is, Luminate claims that 95% of independent record stores that sell over 1,000 units a week are reporting in. Now, that's a huge discrepancy. Is it 5% reporting in, or is it 95% reporting in? Of all of the record stores in my area, and there aren't that many, I'd be surprised if they report into Luminate. But I'm sure that they would be more than happy to if they had an easy way to do it. A straightforward, say, non-intrusive way that didn't take away from their day-to-day operations. They don't want to worry about that. Everyone agrees that accuracy in numbers, well, it matters. Everyone agrees. In a perfect world, every vinyl record sold would be reported to Luminate, and that reporting and all of that data would go to Billboard, and we'd have great numbers that we can rely on. But that requires technology and software that's seamless. We're just not there yet. Eliminating or not estimating sales from those who don't report in, that's only going to make the data worse, and it's also going to eliminate a vast majority of the independent record stores selling records. A2IM, the American Association of Independent Music, have asked Luminate to hold off on their decision to what they're planning to do. A2IM has asked that Luminate wait until it can account for 75% of those significant sales, or those stores that have significant sales. Now, why does all this matter? If you love vinyl records and are excited about its return as a format, it matters. Inaccurate data are cutting out a large population of those who could be supplying the data will only undermine the strength of the vinyl record industry. Better data is in the best interest of the consumer, but it's especially in the best interest of those who are supplying the music to the consumer. Bad data hurts everyone. If you think I'm crying wolf, look at it this way. The RIAA reports on units shipped, while Luminate reports on units sold. There can be little dispute with what the RIAA reports. I mean, records are going out the door. It's easy to count those. If Luminate cuts out a majority of the indie sales, there's going to be a huge discrepancy between the RIAA numbers. I said that right? RIAA? Yeah, the RIAA numbers and Luminate's numbers. If I'm a record executive and I'm looking at the numbers of units being shipped out and the returns, and there's a huge discrepancy and it's bad data, but I don't know that, I might decide not to invest in pressing plants. I might say, why invest in vinyl records? There's no returns. So if I'm shipping out, say, 50,000 units, and Luminate's data is indicating only a small percentage of that resulted in sales, I'm going to put my money elsewhere. So is there a solution for this? The story here is to support the local record stores. If you're in the industry right now watching me talk about this, what needs to be done is to find a way for those local independent record stores, find an easy way for them to report the data to Luminate without having to think about it. Point of sale technology, for example, put it in the hands of local record stores and have it automatically send that information to Luminate or other services that collect data, just like Amazon or Best Buy or any of the other major retailers do. The story here is that vinyl records is here to stay. It's been growing, and sales have been growing over the past few years. Like I said earlier, good news brings buyers in. More exposure brings buyers in. Better numbers brings buyers in. And not just the buyers, but also the investors. That good news will even introduce an entirely new generation to the joy of vinyl music. So as always, I want to know your thoughts about all of this. Are there any solutions that you can think of? Maybe somebody will see your solution in a comment, and who knows? Maybe Luminate's watching and they'll even decide to hold off for a bit. That would be good too. So thank you for watching as always. And until next time, stay safe and enjoy your records.